with the amendment. All in favor of approval of the minutes say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say no. Okay, minutes are approved as amended. Any public comments? No public comments? Okay, budget update. This has been a busy week after the May revise and a flurry of activity, of course, a lot of which is conflicting. But what I will, let's see here what I'm going to do first. First thing, let me pass this chart around for everybody. Did I leave you guys enough on that side? There are more over here.
I'll get some more.
What this trend line shows is over the past 11 years, which are the red numbers, what our Fund 01, the unrestricted general fund budget has done. So, and point of interest. Okay, let me do this one. This is the budget simulation that comes out of the league of, so the Community College League of California. It's been a coup or what?
If you need one.
I was wondering what it was before.
Just a training.
We have another classified Senate rep. Okay, so what this shows from the Budget Advocacy Action Center is the projection from the League for the impact of next year's budget on Pasadena Area Community College District. So what you'll see is that they're projecting, roughly speaking, a $6 million cut and about 1,294 reduced full-time equivalent students being funded. Bob?
And there is some discussion apparently between the Chancellor's office and the League office regarding the actual credit FTES number. So, you know, we have numbers ranging from 18,500 all the way up to this newest number of 20,010. And the last sheet I saw, which was the one prior to this one, there was actually non-credit FTS as well as the enhanced funding, which is what the CDCP FTS is for the non-credit side. So somehow they've wrapped it all up, and we're trying to sort that out with either the Chancellor's office or the League office. As for our planning right now, we're really working on the lower FTS number until we get some clarification as to what the right number is.
But the bottom line is that the current cut is expected to be about $6 million from last year. Now, in order to put that in somewhat perspective, I did up another chart, which I'll pass out.
Excuse me, Dr. Rick. Can I request to go back to public comment? We have someone that wants to make a public comment.
Did you go past public comment?
I did.
Okay.
Would you like us
So I'm
to?
requesting that if we can go back to that.
Could I request that you return to it for a moment?
Yes.
Okay. Is there any public that would like to comment?
Did you go yet? Okay, well, I'm going.
Thank you, Dr. Rick.
No, thank you, Rick. I just came in for a second. I do have to run back over for another meeting. And I know how hard you've been working all semester. And I did want to just take a minute or two to offer a few thoughts and observations and notes of gratitude. First of all, I do thank Rick, Dr. Van Pelt, and Cindy, and all of you for the great work that you've been doing on the Budget Resources and Allocations Committee all semester. I can't say that I've watched all the video, but I've watched a good deal of it. And I want you to know that the co-chair Professor Oberlander has come to the board meetings, and the actions that you are taking and recommending, the board is extremely grateful for it and is taking quite seriously and is helping to guide the discussion. So I just came here first and foremost to express my gratitude for the work you've done so far and the work that you're going to continue to do. Because of all the committees and shared governance groups, this group here probably has the toughest task, and the one that is the most most affects everyone, and is the one that has to face up to the realities. This is not a discussion group. This is a group that really guides how we're going to allocate resources for next year. So that's the first thing, and the most important thing I came here to do is to thank Dr. Brac and each one of you personally for the work that you're doing and continue to do. The other thing is, as Rick has already started, you better than anyone on campus knows that the news is not good. For me, it comes down to this, on the budget side. And that is, when I first started 2 years ago, our annual budget, basically, give or take, was $120 million. Next year, as you already know, Rick will report, next year our budget for 12-13 is $104 million. Okay? So that's a real $16 million, boom, right out. Okay? Now, we've performed a miracle over the last few years because we've lost that much money, and we've managed to hang on and to continue our commitment to students and so on. But obviously, we've had to take actions to reduce classes and so on. But we've maintained our commitment to our faculty and staff. We have not had layoffs or furloughs, and it's our commitment not to have any as we move forward. So you're dealing with the tough news, and it's mostly about cutting the budget, isn't it? And that's difficult. But in essence, especially as we move forward, our work is not to cut the budget. That is difficult work. Our work is to talk about what's most important to us, what we want to do and why. That's the allocations part of the committee. As we move into next year, we are going to have to make some decisions about what our top priorities are. Obviously, students first, instruction first, and we go from there. And as I always say, there's hope and there's opportunity here, because I think all of us would acknowledge by now that we cannot move into next year with business as usual. And for a lot of your colleagues out there, that does not come as good news. But there's a way that if we really look at our priorities, what's most important, and fund those, and then go through the difficult process of determining what our priorities are, there's a way that this actually will be an opportunity so that that is our best chance of preserving what's most important to us, our access and success mission, and the community of faculty and staff that help to make that happen. You are aware of the many districts in the state, both K-12 and community colleges, that are in financial distress, deep financial distress. We are not one of them. The reason is because you have done this work, and we have made some decisions. We've made some priority decisions. The districts that are in distress, it's kind of, well, maybe they'll come back, and just keep funding everything the same way right across the board. But you have helped us to give us the policies that are necessary in order to make priority decisions. And that's why we are not in financial distress, although we obviously could use more funding. The other thing that I would be hopeful about is that one of the decisions that you've made, and I so much thank you for it, is we have to budget the $6 million cut that you were just referring to. We have to budget that. Okay? We have to take it out of our budget for 12-13. Have to. Because if we cannot take a chance that the November ballot initiative will not pass. Because if it doesn't pass in November, and then we took the cut, we would have disaster. We have no way. We'd have to cut out so much of the schedule that's left that it's just not something that we could contemplate. So I'm very, very grateful for the mature policy recommendation that you've already made to do that. The better news is I am fighting every day. There's not a day that goes by for that ballot initiative. You know, our faculty and our other union partners, we are going to move forward together, arm in arm, and we are going to fight for this initiative. Not because we need more money, but because of our value statement. Because when, as Jack Scott says, when you give $1 to community colleges, it comes back as $4 in the economy. That's the message we have to lock onto. I'm going to get out there. I'm campaigning now for it. I know you're going to join me campaigning for it. That initiative will pass. It's polling at 56% right now. Let's fight for it. Let's go for it. Now, if we do our work here, as you've already determined we are going to do, and we budget down for the $6 million, if in November that does pass,
it was going to be like a backfill for the shortages that we've had in the past. Then the governor decided what he's really going to do is to anything that comes due to any school district or community college through apportionment, he will then short the apportionment in order to neutralize and to zero out those amounts. Okay, so what's currently happening, and I'll show you that here in a second in another memo, is that they're arguing about the entire process. In fact, yesterday the city of Pasadena, along with I think 8 or 9 other cities, sued the state government because of this takeover of money. City of Pasadena, I got a memo from them this morning that said they're expecting in the next 10 years a shortfall as a result of this action of $150 million. And therefore now what the city is doing is they're suing the state for that money. So what this shows is that they're contemplating this year, and in fact this month, we just got notice that we are being shorted $30 million system-wide, so that's $600,000. 2%. So $600,000 they're shorting us on top of the deferred apportionment. That's just for the current month. Now, the chances, let me just say that again a different way here because that's not right. One way or another, what they're going to do is they're going to withhold apportionment to make sure that we don't get the $116 million. Okay, so the $116 million will translate to $3 million for us. Okay, what they're doing is they're waiting to see how many assets actually do come our way. Then they're going to short us that exact amount. While they're waiting, however, they're shorting us to make sure that they don't overpay us. So what it does is it stacks their deferral on top of another deferral. So they're even deferring the amount of money that they were going to give to us after the deferral.
Of course, you know that we'd either get sued or put in jail if we tried that with anybody we owed money to.
Yes,
Right?
yes.
I think it goes back to what we talked with the auditor last time of how long are you really deferring. At one point, is it we're just not getting that money back out.
Right.
So the problem is, and Marie can speak to this because she's working on the cash flow projections to see how much money we have from now through basically the middle of July. And how far along are you on that analysis, Marie?
Okay. I'm looking at
You
it.
might.
Okay. My initial estimate, assuming we only get the May apportionment, we would have only like 10 million in cash, which is good enough to finance our operating expenses for the month of June. So we have to do the interfund cash borrowing temporarily from other funds. And the other problem is if the July deferment of about 19 million doesn't come in, and we have to do another one. And after that, I don't know whether the state will give us all the apportionment for July and August. So in terms of cash, that's really a big problem.
So what you're saying is that we have enough cash through June?
Not June. For the month of June, yes, we'll have enough cash, but we can end up to zero at the end of June 30.
So the July 1st payroll would be the problem?
Yep, will be a problem. July 1, because
That's
it's
the
a C1.
faculty payroll.
Yeah, C1.
Okay, so, I mean, what that means is that we need to do some work with the county to prep for moving money, doing an interfund transfer, or interfund borrowing from probably the OPEB fund, and probably then for $10 million from OPEB into Fund 01 in order to hit the July payroll. Dave?
Okay, now, the July 10th payroll is for June, correct? So we're not talking about that one, we're talking about the August 10th
No,
pay?
we're talking about cash. Two different things. You're talking about accrual, and Marie's talking about cash. Cash on hand to actually cover people's paychecks.
But is that the July 10th paycheck?
It's going to be the first the first on the faculty side and the 10th on the classified side.
Well, it's not the first for faculty because we're an hourly, so I think we get paid the 10th or whatever, the summertime like that. Or we get paycheck June 1st. Anyway, it's not a big deal, but I don't think we don't get paid on the first of the month in July and August. Well, I get 10 checks, so I guess some people on 12-month payments. So.
How much would the payroll be on July the
I
1st,
don't know.
roughly?
I don't have it on top of my head, the July 1, I don't know.
But it's probably something like $5 million.
Close still.
Probably somewhere around there. The bottom line is that this really wreaks havoc in cash flow. Is when we have to go through this analysis to try to figure out if we're going to have enough money in the bank, cash, in order to pay our obligations, including payroll. Okay, and when the state pulls these stunts, because they don't want to be caught short, and they don't mind us being caught short. And it's one of the reasons why many districts do these tax and revenue anticipation notes. But, you know, for us to do one would cost us a couple $100,000, and we could end up with $10 million as an insurance policy. But what we're going to do with the county is to do all the paperwork necessary immediately to do interfund borrowing. The rule for us, we have board authorization to do it for the current year. And you know what? We probably need to do another one for the June the 6th.
We have to do another one for next year.
For June the 6th meeting. To give us authorization after July the 1st, because our authorization runs out June the 30th for the current year. But what we'll end up doing is to do it before, under the current authorization. Then we have to report to the board that we did it at their next business meeting, which in this case would be July the 18th or whatever that is, right? Okay, so when you look at this, the projection, what they're saying now is the total 10, 11, 11, 12 estimated budget cuts could be $12.3 million. Okay, the unfortunate part of all that is that now you're getting into other areas such as $2.2 million for redevelopment revenue delay or the risk of the delay of that. The bottom line is our best number is at this point still, and this is a double-sided sheet, by the way, that came from the league. We're still estimating that we will be $10.5 million shy of where we should be. Okay, so what Mark was talking about was the November election. The double swing that can occur is that the state's told us that if the November ballot initiative, the Brown initiative, remember there are two competing initiatives, the Munger initiative and the Brown initiative. Whichever one gets the greatest number of votes is the one that will be enacted. Both of them can pass, but that's not the end of the road. If the Munger initiative gets more votes than the Brown initiative, then the Brown initiative does not become enacted. And the problem with the Munger one is it has no upside for community colleges. The upside is K through 12. And therefore, the other part of the important message is that it's the Brown initiative that helps us. And it's got a poll better than Munger. Now, if it does, what they promised is that they would buy back $300 million worth of deferrals, deferred apportionment. For us, that's $6 million. Now, remember that we're on the order of $20 million worth of deferrals. So that doesn't even buy back a third of it. But it helps. It doesn't help budget-wise, it helps cash flow-wise. The second part would help budget-wise, and that is that we would get $6 million, $300 million. So the current year $6 million cut would basically be negated. The trouble is we don't find out until second week of November in the general election, and that's a significant chunk of the way through the budget year, which is why we have to budget as though the cut only will occur and the initiative will not pass. Dave?
Yeah, on the initiatives, they still need 66 and 2/3 votes to pass?
No. No, this can be passed by, I believe, and I might be wrong, but I think it's simple majority. 50% plus one.
Yeah, because I know it was taxes, and I thought, did they change the ruling?
But I think that when they put it on the ballot this way, that it just takes a majority. If the legislature tried to do it, then it would be 2/3
Okay.
plus one. Okay, any questions on that? The bottom line is you can see that this stuff is rapid fire. It's developing very quickly, and every day there's new information that you then have to try to assimilate. Okay, and let me do this, this one here. This is from Dan Troy, who's the Vice Chancellor of Fiscal in Sacramento. So what this shows is that the Chancellor's office was notified by Department of Finance about this deferral due to the redevelopment agency funds. And then Dan Troy's further response and clarification that they're working with DOF on that $116 million, that they would only hold those funds that do materialize. Okay, the problem is in the meantime they're still holding our money and they won't release it until they have better clarity. And he says that they can hold it for up to 30 days. P-tax means property tax, right? And GF is general fund. So hopefully that gives you a little more insight into that. Now, if there are any questions on that, or anything so far. No? Okay, so when you go through now, and I said that the rubber's going to start hitting the road now, and now it will. We have to target $105.5 million general fund. In order to hit that number, we have to reduce where we currently are expenditures, net expenditures, by the way, because one of the options still is that we can increase revenue. To every dollar that we increase in revenue, we have to cut $1 less. Okay, so we have $10.5 million reduction. $2 million was already budgeted within that number because we set it aside for last year. So that really leaves us $114 million, which is $8.5 million shortfall. In order for us to be in the same position as we were last September the 1st, prior to the adoption of the budget, by this year, September the 1st, we need to identify $8.5 million worth of net expenditure reductions. That's just to get the base. That allows us to operate as though we're currently operating. Now, thereafter, if we actually want to make changes and improvements and refunding things and reprioritizing, you'd really have to cut something somewhere else beyond that in order to come up with money to pay for whatever it is we're going to do. Now, I am expecting that the $2.5 million worth of current year budget cuts, the February surprise, will be handled through underspending in the current budget year by the various different departments. Okay, and that will occur from a number of sources, and I think that there will probably be a little money left over from adjunct, the 19.3. Probably not a huge amount of money. I think that there will be money left. I know there's money left over from the non-hiring of people, because we did set aside $1.5 million and we haven't expended that. We've hired a number of people again, and at this board meeting coming up, I think there are another 5 or 6 faculty members on the list. Okay, well, we'll fund that through next year, but in the current year, there's still going to be unexpended money. And then I think that there's probably money left over from SASE and SAFI and whatnot. So I think that what we're going to, oh, go ahead.
Not SAFI, it would be the Student Success Fund,
Okay,
which is
yeah,
the
you're right.
ARC, the former PFE.
Right.
Yeah.
So I think that when we pool all that money together and cobble it all up, we will have the $2.5 million. Unfortunately, we don't find that out until the third week or so of July, after the year is closed. But I'm pretty confident that that's going to happen. Okay, so we've covered the current year crisis. We will cover the next year crisis with $8.5 million. That will mean that when it's roughly a 7.9% reduction across the board. It doesn't have to be across the board, but if you're going to take the bottom line and work it out, it's about 7.9%. Remember that 90% of our budget is wages, salaries, and benefits. About 2.5% is utilities. Okay, so when you take out the 2.5 and take out the 90, you're up to 92.5. That leaves 7.5%. We have to make a 7.9% cut. So therefore, we could wipe out every other nickel, plus a little, that we spend for anything other than wages, salaries, and benefits. That would involve all supplies, that would involve all consulting, all travel, all books, all period. Go down the list of what the 4,000 and 5,000 bank of numbers includes of objects, in order to only fund the 1,000, the 2,000, and the 3,000 banks. So the academic salaries, the classified salaries, and the benefits are the 1, the 2, and the 3,000 banks. Or the option is, because obviously that's not possible, that you have to go into wages, salaries, and benefits, because there is no other way to make that math work. So if you were to apply 7.9% to each one of the functional areas of the organization, you're talking about instruction on the order of $5.3 million. You're talking about admin services after you take out the $2 million of about $1.1 million. You're talking about educational services at probably $500,000. That's what you're talking about. 50% of the budget is expended in the classroom by law. Okay, 50%. Either we get rid of people heavier elsewhere, that means classified people elsewhere, or non-instructional faculty, or we end up reducing faculty. That's the bottom line. It's a reduction across the board because there are absolutely no simple solutions. The simplest solution of all is for us to increase revenue. If we were to add 1,000 out-of-state students through whatever mechanism, that will net us about $5 million. Okay, so when we're trying to cut $8.5 million, it shows you what a long way we can go with just that. The reality is that we're not going to have that in place come August the 27th. But what we do need to work on is to have that in place come the spring semester. And it means that, no matter what else we do, we have very, very difficult choices to make. Because we have things that are falling apart around our ears that have to be funded, because there's no choice. And there's no magic bullet that we can just shoot this problem with. That's not happy news, but we've kind of been leading up to this moment. And with the May revise, it's pretty much solidified where we are. Anybody speechless?
Are the deferred monies?
Interestingly, one is actually they're quoting $317 million and it was $300 million, but in round numbers they're both $300 million. And therefore both of them to us is about $6 million. And I think that that's coincidental. Nobody planned that, but for whatever reason it's a similar number. But they're two very distinct numbers. One buys back apportionment deferral and helps us cash flow wise, and the other is an increase to the budget. An increase to the decrease of the budget. Any other comments or questions?
So The 7.9%, that came from, that you're talking 10.5 million cut on last year's budget, or where is the 7.9% from?
7.9 is my internal calculation of how you get to $105.5 million.
So that's a cut from last year's budget, which was around 116, and we
Yes.
dropped down to, okay.
114 and then down to 105.5.
Okay. And then, as far as the out-of-state students, the fiscal year starts with the summer.
Yes.
This summer will be next fiscal year, correct?
Correct.
Okay. So where are we at with the numbers of out-of-state students compared to last year for the summer?
Do you know that?
I don't have that off the top of my head, because it's still, they're still enrolling and they're still looking for things.
Seems to be a lot of interest, though.
There is a lot of interest. If I remember correctly, the spring was up by 150, 200 students, if I remember correctly. Part of the challenge is these students are shopping right now, so the deans are actively working to try to fill the section needs that these students have to get them here. And also one of the challenges is that mom and dad back, wherever these students come from, they don't want to know about just the first year. They want to know about the second year as well. They want guarantees that we'll be able to fulfill their needs for their complete 2-year career here at PCC.
But is so the interest is up, in other words, we've got more people interested this year than were last year.
Yeah, but
do we have a rough number, or we don't even know?
I don't have it.
Anecdotally, I think that there's a lot of people getting emails.
Exactly, but I can say two things. One, we have to remember there's a lot of competition with these students, because every school is trying to solve their budget problems on the back of international students right now, from UC to CSU on down. That's one reality. Second reality is that Dr. Bell and others, they are gearing up right now with the international. So we spent the year basically putting a plan together, and Dr. Bell is about to pull the trigger on a plan that will beef up our ability to go from 1,000 students to 2,000 students to 3,000 students. And that's what's happening.
And they don't
now.
just have to be here, because there's also a plan of where we can create a satellite campus, for instance, in China.
Right.
Now, if we were to be able to do that at our current rates, then it's advantageous to Chinese students who don't want to leave the country. I mean, there are other opportunities. Then there's the distance ed opportunity, and then there's the contract ed opportunity.
And we're on the distance ed side, for example, we've spent a good chunk of this year preparing and building up, and the district's hiring a couple more positions to grow that area dramatically. And we've already seen growth. We're going to continue to see growth. Contract ed, we're in the process of gearing up a plan for that as well, a very aggressive plan. All this will be reported to the board at the August meeting, as I recall. And I'm heading to a conference in Cleveland in a couple of weeks to get the how-tos of how to quickly get something up and going in the contract ed area, for example. So we're trying diligently to get more revenue into this place. On the other issue, on the China program, the satellite program, I know that Dr. Bell is, because we're spread so thin in so many areas, his primary concentration is to put the infrastructure together at this campus. And then we'll look at the satellite operation in China, because that comes with the costs and expenses and all the rest of it too.
Bottom line is we're not leaving too many stones unturned in trying to find revenue sources.
That's correct. We even put together a deal for a group of 38 students from China that are in a travel group. They want a 2-week or 12-day intensive ESL program. And working with some of our faculty in the languages area, we've actually put a little deal together for them. It's $150 a student over actually it's 12 hours, I should say, 12 hours over a 5-day period. So we got about a 25% margin on that. Won't bring in a lot of money, but it's going to bring in some money. So we're doing everything from small to big.
In past years prior to this one, my classes are supposed to start at 35. I've taken them up to 37. We were discouraged from doing that this year.
Starting the summer term, you will no longer be discouraged.
Great.
And in fact, you will be encouraged to do that. Because again, as Dr. Van Pelt has said numerous times, the game is to increase the enrollments on the basis of the FTS that we get. In other words, we can generate more enrollments on the FTS that we're paid, and that's what we're going to do. And that's how we're going to try to maintain access and keep the number up for the students, even if we cannot afford as many sections as we afforded before. We're going to get more people in those, which means many of those will convert to what's known as large group instruction classes.
Thank you.
And then on the add drop thing, I might add that very quickly. Faculty are going to be given the add slips directly. That's going to be returned to them to have that decision. You get some number, and then the dean's going to be given a large block, and the dean will allocate them, or however it works.
Dave?
Yeah, is there any international students that are turned down for any reason?
That's a good question, Dave. I'm not sure. I'm sure there are for one reason or another. Can't you get in your student services meetings any? Yeah, I'm sure there are. I don't have the particulars, but you know.
Probably for lack of cash.
Yeah, lack of cash or.
Well, I just did want to make sure that we're not taking people on just to take people on. You know,
No, but if you have to.
Academics are not good or something like that.
Is there what, sir?
You know, their academic scores or whatever.
Well, I'm not sure about that, but remember, students, there is no criteria to get into a community college. If you can breathe, we'll let you in the door. And I don't mean that disrespectfully. That's just the way it works.
We take 100% of the top students.
Right. Somebody said if you can put a mirror in front of their face and you see some steam, that's all it takes. Which makes our challenges very good. Yeah.
I have a question. It's not a budget one so much as about the November ballot. What can employees do in terms of PCC employees do to promote students and others to not only register but also vote in particular ways? Is there restrictions on that as employees either in the office or in the classroom?
Kneecapping is discouraged. No, I mean, the reality is that people have to tell their friends and their neighbors and their brothers and their mothers and their cousins, and, you know, people need to know that we're in a significant bind. And, you know, we've had almost $1 billion taken out of the system in the last few years. Okay, and that comes while the demand for community colleges has been increasing. So, but most people have no clue that that's what we're facing. And I think that most people would be very sympathetic if they just knew what our plight was.
This statistic we had of what costs $1 produces $4, that's powerful. And I think we need to know that kind of thing.
Yeah. Our incoming AS president, Simon Frazier, is kind of co-chairing along with Roger Mulvar a awareness and campaigning and what have you. The Academic Senate has appointed a couple of people, I believe, and I think the Associated Students have done that. And I'm not sure where the classified is on that.
We have 3.
You have 3 people on that. So I imagine that Simon will be gearing that up very quickly. But I know it every time I talk publicly or privately to one person or 100 people. I do the commercial. And I think if we all do that, even my neighbors, I was working with a couple of Saturdays ago. I didn't get a lot of sympathy, I got to be honest with you, but I did try. A few of them across the street, but that's okay.
But you know, Molly Munger is a Pasadena resident, and I think her fortune comes from Berkshire Hathaway through her father, I believe. And so she's got the competing initiative that pretty much stiffs us from any benefit. And so I was on a conference call last week, and Jack Scott was saying that he personally has gone to her to try to, in months past, to pull her initiative. Because as a competing initiative, it doesn't help. And she has plenty of money, and she's plowing forward. And so people have tried to discourage that, because I think if we put all of our eggs in the same basket, then there's a far greater chance. Because what's going to happen now is that you're going to have the competing ads on television that are going to confuse a significant number of people. And people will think, oh yeah, that's, you know, the better ad, and maybe it's the better ad, for a competing initiative that does not help us. And it's not just in the Pasadena area. I mean, it's a statewide initiative. So if she polls by one more vote than Brown initiative, then we're out the money. And then the $6 million is an automatic $6 million cut. Dustin?
Is there any idea that we should actually get a group together here on campus of faculty, staff, managers, and so on to phone bank and make phone calls before the
Well, I
vote?
think that's probably what Mark was referring to, because there's no point doing that any too soon, because most people won't make up their minds. But I think that what you're going to find in the fall semester is there's going to be a strong push, because the consequences are just too dire for us. You know, you can't keep taking one enormous cut after the next. And when you're talking about the better part of $1 billion worth of cut, that's just hard to fathom. We did go from a high, I believe, of 126 million to now 105.5, so it's about a $20 million hit that we've taken. Dave, did you have a...
Yeah, one thing you have to keep in mind is a lot of people vote by absentee ballot. So the initial push is before that, when those ballots start coming out. We're planning on doing a phone banking and blitzing the neighborhoods of where our members are.
CSEA is?
Yes, CSEA.
And it'll include this initiative?
Yes. Well, this is the initiative
This is
that
it?
we're trying to get. Matter of fact, I believe this is the first one that was brought to the public, and I think it was a month for it to pass, and we got enough votes. I mean, enough signatures.
Mm-hmm.
Quickest that has made the ballot.
Okay. So, I mean, if everybody can do that, that obviously goes a long way, because it isn't just getting 50%, it's not just getting 56%, it's getting one more vote than the Munger initiative. Okay. Are there any other... we need to recognize that Hannah Israel now, as the new student trustee, automatically has another year worth of enjoyment from Brac. And the other thing to keep in mind is that she doesn't like microphones. She's very shy. Board meetings should beat that out of her. Okay, let's see here. We have schedules. So this obviously takes into account the 440s during the summer. And hopefully these meetings will work. Now, if there's nothing to talk about, then we will cancel the meetings. We're not going to have a meeting just for the sake of doing it. Where are you off to, by the way? Where are you off to? UC Merced. So when do you leave? Oh, is that right? And then when does the transition take place for the students?
For myself, June 6th. The next board meeting, we are trading.
Oh, is that right? But then you still walk on commencement? Yeah. All right. Okay. Is there Dustin?
I'd like to, we'll be voting on at our next meeting to, my seat will be passed along to AC Pinella, the new VP of the Senate, so he will be sitting here.
Okay. Gary?
And unfortunately, too, my seat probably will be taken to June 30th. I'm going to see if I could continue, but initially it's supposed to pass on to the next president.
All right. So we'll have a bunch of changes. Okay. Are there any other comments or questions for the good of the group? If not, everybody has a safe and enjoyable Memorial Day weekend. Thank you, Rick. Move to adjourn. Move. Second. Any objections? Danny's already out the door. It is 1:28. That's last in, first out scenario.